We've been conditioned as a culture to reach outside of ourselves to find pleasure. The more connected we are to the present moment through our five senses, the more we are able to experience pleasure because we're not in regret of something from the past or worry about anything for the future. When we are present to this exact moment, we are able to sensorially experience everything around us that is happening. When I talk about pleasure, I mean pleasure in all of its forms. Hello, beautiful. It's Dr. Amanda Hanson, also known as the Midlife Muse. Please make sure to subscribe, follow, and share this YouTube channel so that you don't miss out, nor do any of your wonderful friends, on this information that I'm sharing. So today, I want to talk to you about probably one of my most favorite topics of all time: female pleasure. And let me begin by saying, when I talk about pleasure, I mean pleasure in all of its forms. I know we typically think just sexual pleasure. Well, that of course is so important. I'm talking about pleasure being experienced through all five of your senses. I'm going to come back in just a moment and speak about sexual pleasure, but for right now, when we talk about what it looks like to live a life just filled with pleasure, that means that you are engaging with your senses. That means that you are actively present to the life you are living right now. The birds flying by the window, the sway of the palm trees, the beauty of someone's eyelashes or dimples when you're having a conversation with them, the smell of the coffee brewing in the morning, the warmth of the cup around your hands, the taste of that one little piece of chocolate as it melts down the back of your throat. It is everything that we see and taste and touch and smell and hear. That is how I have created a life of such abundance in pleasure, is being present to this exact moment. Nowhere else but here, right now. The more connected we are to the present moment through our five senses, the more we are able to experience pleasure because we're not in regret of something from the past or worry about anything for the future. When we are present to this exact moment, we are able to sensorially experience everything around us that is happening. That is how we create a life of feeling lit up, turned on energetically for all of our life. We've been conditioned as a culture to reach outside of ourselves to find pleasure, whether it's through alcohol, excessive shopping, pornography, scrolling endlessly, watching one Netflix show after another, eating in the pantry just unconsciously. Now, none of the indulgences are necessarily bad in and of themselves. It's the way we use it because we're trying to create a feeling. We're grabbing for that food, that alcohol, that pornography, that social media, hours and hours of scrolling because we're trying to catch a feeling. We're trying to create some kind of connection or pleasure. But the problem is most of those things are removing us further from ourselves and are actually from the outside world. And why the pleasure feeling is different than the kind that is sourced from within. The kind that even through breathing, deep breathing, all the way down to your root chakra, which I teach my clients how to do, can create such an overwhelming sense of turn on and pleasure. Simply knowing how to fill yourself up with the breath all the way down to your root chakra. You can create a whole sensorial moment for yourself. Sexual pleasure has been shamed for women for thousands of years. If we look back even to religious writings around women experiencing pleasure was considered deviance. If a woman even showed signs of enjoying sex, she was considered to be unstable, that she was a woman that had something wrong with her. So we were culturally conditioned, religiously conditioned to disassociate pleasure from sex and see sex as only a vehicle by which to make babies. And so even so deeply fundamentally, thousands of years of conditioning, we as women feel wrong if we're in pleasure in our bodies. And so we somehow are able to justify pleasure from the outside in. Pleasure if someone else does it to your body. Pleasure if you have a few cocktails and feel warm and fuzzy. Pleasure if you buy excessively and have a feeling of abundance. That's not the kind of pleasure I'm talking about. I'm talking about the kind that is so self-sourced, so deep, so powerful. It will change the way you walk. It will change the way you speak, the way you show up in every single space of your life. I can tell a woman who is self-sourced in her own pleasure, she is a queen, versus a woman who is seeking outside of herself for someone or something to give her a momentary hit of pleasure. That is a very different energy. So if you're interested in learning more about how to connect to your deep wells of pleasure within your body and through all 5 of your senses, please purchase my program, The Queen's Inauguration. Such an exquisite opportunity to learn how to go deeper within yourself, because you were designed for pleasure. It is beautiful when a woman is experiencing her pleasure. She naturally is overflowing to everyone else around her. I spent so many years in an energy many, many decades ago of resentment. Resentment just gives more resentment out into the world. Now, overflowing with pleasure in my life, I overflow to everyone around me with such pleasure and such joy and abundance. So being around me now is a completely different experience from 20 years ago when I was in resentment energy and had really nothing to give. And if I gave it with resentment and feeling depleted. So for a woman to source herself in pleasure, she brings so much joy to everyone around her. That radiance, that effervescence is contagious. So please know that your pleasure sources and lifts up the entire world. Don't let anybody ever tell you otherwise. Thank you so much for being here. Please make sure to subscribe, to share, to comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on female pleasure in particular. Love always, Dr. Amanda.